Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley. And today we're joined by fellow mystical coach of Oneness, Alexia Espinosa. Welcome back to the MSU podcast, Alexia.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, Alexia, I'm just gonna invite you to just go straight into it because I know that you just had a massive, huge quantum healing session with Rachel, and you're here to really talk about what you experienced, what you went through, and what's it been like since the healing.
Yeah, it's literally fresh. It was last week, almost a week away that a week ago. Sorry that I did it. And just the way that Rachel is with you, it's like the purity of like the session and just the non-judgment is so beautiful, right? Like you just being able to pour out whatever is happening. So just a little bit but backstory, right? I've been on the podcast and talked about my sexual abuse in the past. I think it's been a year already since I did that episode with you guys, and that was huge for me to talk about. And of course, with healing, there's never a limit to it, and there's always layers and layers and layers. So the past few months, I've been feeling like this big shame and embarrassment. A lot of, again, like body issues coming up. And, Ellie and I, we always talk every day. And just something was the memories were coming up. And one in particular, I couldn't remember exactly, but it was like this feeling of a lot of shame. And I just didn't know where it was coming from. I knew it was rooted in that, but I didn't know where it was coming from. And I recall like telling you, Ellie, like, oh, I got to schedule with Rachel because I feel like she's the only one that can get me to where I need to get to, right? And I put it off because I was like, I like to kind of see before reaching out for her if I can move through it myself. And I think I went to 2 sessions at the coaching certification program with our newer coaches that just graduated. And I had 2 huge, massive healings there that led still to the same root of that sexual abuse. And after that, I had a lot of memories just come up, like one in particular that I will stop here and start off by saying this is my experience. And I don't have a lot of experience working with people that have gone through sexual abuse as children. So this is what I experienced. And the reason why I'm here speaking about it is because if it can help somebody say like, oh, I can talk about this, right? Because what I'm about to say was very shameful for me and embarrassed, which led to a lot of what I was feeling now as an adult, embarrassed by my body, shame about my body, and just my actions, right? And so a memory that came up was like, that I had shared with Rachel. I've never shared this with anybody, and I think it like went into a vault somewhere, like obviously, right? And it was this me, I don't even know what we were doing, but anyway, it was like me caressing my stepfather's back, but not in a father-child way, right? And when I recall that memory, wow, I was so embarrassed and so ashamed of myself. Like, how could I have done that? Like, that's so gross. Why did I do that? And just like all of that came up, right? And it was just a moment of like, as I was moving through it before I met with Rachel, it just kept coming up and up. And I was like, so disgusted. I was like, how could I, the memory of the age is really like escapes me, but around, I would say from the time span of like maybe 7, 8 to 10, 11. But just the embarrassment and the shame in that was like eating at me, that I couldn't believe that I engaged in that, right? And it was just so much for me to handle in that moment. And so, what Rachel during my healing with Rachel, her putting it in like, how could you know at such a young age that that wasn't okay, and that you were being groomed to do that, right? You were being groomed to this is my own words, right? Not her words, but being groomed to feel like that was okay to do because of the actions that this person was doing to you. And I was like, oh, and immediately like my shoulders were like, oh, okay. And that also, I took on the responsibility that it was my fault that I was being abused, right? Because of that action. And, so not being in the way of responsibility, right? I was in the toxic way of responsibility, took on the responsibility, which is so on point with me because I take responsibility for everything in my family. And so we moved through another, like I literally just like kind of like threw everything at her, and then we went into the healing, and we talked about an experience. And Danny, you had helped me a little bit move through this one time when you and I had a session, which was the very first time I ever said anything to anybody about this. Because I recall being in someone's house, I don't know whose house, and there's kids there, and I happened to be with this little boy who was like on my lap, and the urge that came over me to engage in the same behavior that was done to me was very powerful. And I can just feel it now. Like what it was just like, the thought came up, and then right away it was like shut off, right? So I shut myself off. I don't know. At that time and before I met with Rachel, I was like, it was like some divine intervention, right? Like somebody that's like watching over me told me to stop. But what happened is that I shut myself off completely, and I didn't trust myself, right, anymore, because I'm like, I could hurt somebody. I can literally do the same thing that was done to me, right? And so, as I was telling Rachel this, she was like, but your higher self did come online. Your intuition was there, because that's who stopped you. It wasn't some divine intervention from somewhere else, right? Because we believe that everything is outside of us, and something else saved us, like God, or my dead grandparents, right? Are like, whoosh, stop, right? And she was like, no, your intuition and your higher self came online at that moment in time and told you that that was not okay, right? Like to stop you from doing something that would be harmful. But I couldn't discern from the shadow self and the divine self at that moment in time. Nobody taught me that, right? Nobody teaches us that stuff in that time. And so that also was like very powerful, because the actions after that moment of shutting myself off is that I continuously, and I think I've spoken about that in that podcast and probably other podcasts that we've been on, continuously seeking outside of myself for that comfort, and using my body in a way that what I was taught, being sexual, right? Like just gaining acceptance by having sex, gaining acceptance by flaunting my body in a sexual way, because that's all I knew. Like that's what I was taught, and that's what I learned. And that I really feel that that moment when I shut myself off was like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to numb, and I'm going to do everything that I just know that this is the only way somebody would be attracted to me or like me or be into me if I do this, right? And so all those like behaviors that I did after that, and throughout my just like recall just doing that and numbing with alcohol and drugs and blah blah blah, whatever, and so just being in that healing with Rachel, like as she moved me through that, right, just giving me that like awareness, that lens of like, no, your higher self did come online. You just didn't know the difference between the shadow part and, and I had also mentioned to her that one time I was like sleeping, and I felt like I was being abused again. And I remember like it was like 10 or 11, and I was sleeping, and I got woken up by him. And I woke up, and I was like, adult self me woke up, and I was like, where am I? Like, holy shit, that was like really real. And so when I mentioned that to her, she's like, you're young, that girl, the healing that you've done allowed that girl to feel safe for you so you can feel her experience too, right? And feel what she was feeling, because I was also neglecting all those parts of me. I didn't really tend to them. as much, as even though I've done a lot of healing around it, but that age part of me, I don't think I've tapped into as much as other ages that have come up in my healing. So it was really interesting to hear that because I felt I was safe at this stage, because I've done so much healing around it, that she was able to tap into me in that way, which was like, oh, okay. Because I was like, what in the heck is happening right now? Like, I literally woke up and I was like, what? And yeah. So her healing, I mean, I can't even describe it, because it was just, do you want me to go into that, or do you want to ask any questions? Yeah.
Well, before we go into that, let's dive into some things, because you've said, I mean, some incredible things that I think will help a lot of people. And when you were first talking about when you were 7, 8 years old and you're caressing your stepdads, I mean, immediately I was like, oh my God, like this is what grooming looks like, and then you taking on the responsibility and the shame that you did something wrong. I mean, this is probably every child that's groomed in this way, right? Something disgusting and violating is happening to you, and then you blame yourself and you take that shame on. I mean, it's devastating to even listen to something like that. And then when you were like, I was in the healing, and when she said like, no, this is what was happening, you were groomed, and then to have your shoulders drop, being like, oh my God, I don't have to carry this, like this burden, all of the shame that I've been holding in myself, that's not even mine. Like, I don't need to do that. And I mean, how incredible. And also how many people out there carry that so deeply, and how much does it destroy them?
Yeah. And it makes you like, for me, it made me, I could feel myself really trapped at that stage, right?
Yeah.
I remember the house. It's literally not even far from where I live right now, but I remember the house, the room, the bathroom, because the bathroom was a place that I went to for safety, and sat there and like just cried and just felt disgusting, right? And even though I did so much healing with that little girl too, like that opening of being able to see what happened there carried on for me to feel that shame too, and embarrassment and disgustingness, like that I was feeling trapped in that situation too, right? And like just trapping myself in the bathroom, because like I can't go out, like I'm so disgusting.
And it's easy to tell yourself, oh, this isn't your fault, it's got nothing to do with you, from the level of mind. But there's a big difference between like knowing that on an adult intellectual level, and then actually moving through the process that you just outlined of like, well, in order to actually get to that place of having that like inner realization of my inner child, realizing, oh, this isn't my burden, you you have to first be willing to feel that the shame, right, first, that's created, because there's like this weird paradox there where it isn't your fault, but yet you did participate in it. So there is like a level of you probably knew as this is happening, I think you just said this, like you knew that you kind of were doing something wrong, but yet you're kind of doing it, and you're so young that this is where the conditioning happens. And then that wound that's in there, there's like that level of like divine shame that needs to be felt, knowing that, yeah, I did do this weird thing, and I didn't really want to be doing it, but I was so young and I was being manipulated by an adult, so I did do it. But I have to be willing to go in and feel that to actually then arrive at the place of being able to have that realization, oh man, this isn't my fault, this is not my responsibility, I was just a kid. Like how are you to know when you're looking up to your, this is stepdad, right?
Yeah.
Or and you mentioned the word, and I'd love for you to go into this, like the word acceptance. Like, can you remember around that time, or tap in, like what was it that you were like looking up towards him for like, I know you mentioned acceptance or validation, that kind of like tied you into this kind of like wound?
So the acceptance of validation, I think, came later on. I feel like once it had stopped, like I think more the teenage self doing that. As in terms of like looking up to him, I don't really, when he first came into my mom's life, I, treated him like my dad because
Exactly.
he
Yeah.
was just nice. And something else interesting that Rachel said during my healing was that some of this needing to look up to or wanting this attention or something came earlier on, but I don't have any recollection. Like it was probably something me looking to my dad and my dad not giving me that. I try to inquire a little bit with my mom, but she couldn't remember. So I have to tap into my dad. He might remember. But, I was 3 years old, so I don't really have a lot of memories from 3 years old. But not that it was maybe like, you know, that attention that he was giving, right? Like, and then initially it was really fun to be around, before all that started.
Yeah.
Jokester and funny and nice to me, like I don't remember it being like I really genuinely liked him in the beginning when they first got together. So, when this happened, I turned completely and my mom's like, why do you hate him so much? And I couldn't tell her, right? My sisters were already born, I think, or one of them was born already. And yeah, I didn't have a voice there to tell her like, hey, he's doing this to me, And sorry, go ahead.
No, I just would love to know. And the hatred that was in there that you were feeling at that age, was that to do with like you knew that this was happening, you knew that it was wrong, but you felt like you couldn't say anything because of who it was? And
I wouldn't be, if I said like a specific answer, I would be lying because I'm not sure what it was. I'm sure there was a lot of that. I don't like what's happening because that's all
yeah,
the energy that I get from myself back then is like I felt so like I'm telling you, like when I walked by somebody and somebody rubbed against my arm, I felt disgusting, like a stranger. And it could have also been too like my intuitive parts of me, my energy of being an empath probably were online at that time too, and I just didn't
of
know.
course.
But I knew that if somebody touched me, I'd be like rubbing my arm like consistently just to be like I felt gross. So I think that just came from like not understanding what was happening, him telling me I couldn't tell anybody. He never threatened me, but he just said, this is for adults, don't tell your mom. And
Oh
I
my God.
didn't.
Yeah.
And I also carried the responsibility of like my sisters were born, and
Right.
I think I just took on that huge role of protector for them. So then maybe even back then I was like, if I say something, it's gonna dismantle my, I know what I went through with my parents getting divorced. Like that was really hard for me. So I really don't, the hatred probably just came about because I just like maybe when it even stopped, I was just like, I hate you,
Yeah.
like don't even touch my sisters. I just remember like not wanting him to even be near them either,
Yeah.
And I don't know what kind of actions I had. I don't really recall that memory very much, but I do know that my mom had asked me very specifically, like, why don't you like him anymore? Why do you treat him that way? Did he do something? And I was frozen and I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And was there ever a point though where was it strictly that mom wasn't safe enough? Was there a part of you that knew that even if I'd said something, it wouldn't change or she wouldn't believe me? Was that anything there? Or was it strictly like, I just need to protect this family unit and I need to protect my sisters and not say anything?
It's hard to say. I feel like there was just a part of me that was scared of what would happen.
Yeah.
I didn't know what would happen,
Of course.
but I
Yeah.
was just scared. I
Yeah.
never had a relationship with my mom where it was easy to speak to her and
Yeah.
talk to her, and she never offered that safety. So that could be a component of it too. Neither one of my parents were like safe
Yeah.
to talk to in that sense. So that could be a component of like, I don't know what's going to happen if I say something, so I'd rather just not say anything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that might just be what would have what happened at that time. As an adult, I told my mom. I told you this, Ellie. I told her
Yeah.
last year, and and it was, I didn't have any high expectations, and immediately she was like, "Ah, why didn't you say something? I would have left him. I wouldn't have had children with him." And I was like, okay, but not like, how can I support you?
Yeah.
This is terrible. It was immediately like her. and then went on to talk about my dad, how my dad cheated on her. And I was like, I don't really care. I
Wow.
was like, I don't really care what my dad did because he didn't hurt me. I said that to her. I was like, I don't care what he did because he didn't hurt me. He hurt you, but not me. Like, so that was the reaction I got. So maybe at that young age, I knew that it wasn't going to be something in my favor, maybe, like, just how I was, was 45 last year. And I was like, I'm not holding on to this anymore. And, I told her, and it was just like, okay, and you move on. And then please don't tell your sister. And I was like, okay, I won't.
Wow.
So there was not like that opportunity that it's again protecting them, and I've been moving through that too, as to how much it would be supportive of my healing if I told them, but it was also like, don't tell her because she's going through so much with her dad. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Why do you feel like your mom doesn't want your sister to know the truth?
Her dad is like really sick. He has Parkinson's and he's really ill. He's not doing well at all. And my sister, I'm closer to my middle sister. So I have two sisters. I'm closer to my middle sister, and the other one is younger. So she's been like, trying to mend her own relationship with him because he had at some point not been around in their life as much for circumstances, because he wasn't legal in this country, and then he was deported back to his country. And so she's been dealing a lot with his medical issues, trying to rekindle a relationship with him, trying to get to know him. And, like my dad knows him and likes him and talks really great things about him, which is really challenging and really activating the way of oneness in those times, because it's like really challenging as you're moving through this. And, my sister is like, people say he's so nice and this and this and that. And I'm like, ugh, like gut wrenching, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And also just the pain of like your mom making it about herself, about your sister, like, it's about everybody else.
Right.
Because probably to your mom, for her to actually make it about you means she's got to feel some shit, like she's got to feel some really deep stuff. And so to avoid that, well, don't tell your sister because she's this. And well, you know what I went through. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of in that moment being like, oh my God, who do we need to, tell to allow you to move through what you've got to move through to heal from this?
Yeah.
It's still, there's this like a dismissal of like,
Mhm.
well, forget about your feelings right
Yeah.
now because we're taking care of sister or,
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
And that's what you hear most from victims, right? That
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like suppressed, don't talk about it, it's taboo
Yeah.
to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's like, it makes you feel like, okay, again, it turns it back onto you, like you're the one at fault for even bringing this up. And, when I told her, I didn't have any expectations of it. I just knew for my own healing, I needed to say something and not hold on to that. And I didn't have any high, like anything that she would be, her reaction was like, I figured that's would be the reaction. So I wasn't disappointed, but I was like, another what do I want to say? I'm sorry. Here again, I have to be the responsible one and not say anything, and make sure everybody around me is okay.
Yeah.
Right. And at this time, it hasn't been in my heart. I've been really feeling into it to see if it would make sense to tell her, my sister, but I that's still something that I'm moving through, and if it like speaks to me to do so, then I would find the right time to do that. I'm not really close with my youngest sister, so I wouldn't even probably tell her because we just don't have a relationship like that. But my middle sister and I do have a big relationship, and we've mended over the years, right? Because there's a big age gap. We're 10 years apart and 11, so I'm like their parent more than their sister. So it's taken us a long time to really repair that relationship. But I feel like that's this process that I'm still moving through. I activate the way of oneness when I'm around her, when she speaks about her dad, and showing the way of compassion around her, because, it is her dad and he's, ill. So I'm just there in presence with her as well. But, it stings, sometimes, but again, it can't come from an emotional reaction like, well, you know what he did, it has to come from a place of love, and I'm not there yet. So, and I don't know if it's going to benefit my healing if I do tell her. So I still have to move through that process, but my mother was a big one to tell. You know, because, you know, we all live together, and like, did you not know? Were you not aware? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the continuation thing, which we've been speaking of, is like, oh, every time I go to have this conversation, I get re-victimized by their own story, by other people making it about them, or and this is what we do in patriarchy, right? We demonize and victimize the victim, and it's like they get the double whammy.
Yeah. And what was interesting to me was that she wanted to show that my dad was bad too. Right? Like her saying, like, right?
It's so fascinating, like, to watch people and the programs that they run when you share something like this. Wow. So she started talking about where your dad fell short.
Yeah, like, because my dad used to work in California. I think before I was born or anything like that. And she was like, I saw all these receipts of him like having another woman and da da da. And I was like, and I literally stopped her. I was like, I don't care. I don't care.
What's that got anything to do with me being abused? You know?
Because she wanted to shine a light of how my dad wasn't that great, right? And I stopped her right there and I said, absolutely not. Like, my dad, for me, like, we've had our issues, but if I outweigh what he's done for me, it's like, he didn't hurt me. You know, like, we went through the growing pains of, like, when you're a teenager, you fight with your parents, and, you know, he has his wounding for sure, that he has to work through, but if he ever chooses to, but at the core level, like, he never hurt me in that way. And I told her that. I said, he didn't hurt me. I don't care what he did before I was born, or when you guys were married. You married him. I just, like, you know, like, if you chose to stay with him, that's on you, not on me. But I stopped her right away. So he didn't hurt me. I don't care what he did.
Because the programs that I feel here is like, your mom brought stepdad into your life. So there's all of that she doesn't want to look at and feel, because look at what he did, but I brought him in, you know.
But she also brought him in by cheating on my dad. So,
oh Lord, it's a whole thing. Wow.
Yeah, right?
So there's all that too.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's obviously a deep layer of responsibility that she probably feels for what happened.
Absolutely.
And because she's not ready to feel that, it's, well, look what this guy did, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no.
So
But I
gnarly.
stopped that right away. I was like, absolutely not. You're not going to change his name in that way, because I can, like, doing the work at MSU, I can see his programs and what he's running and, like, you know, his upbringing. But that's not for me to change him. Like, I can see it. I can even see it now when I speak to him. But again, we may have had our differences, but he never did something that violated me in that sense that he shouldn't have done when I was little, right? All I know is that he's always been, even when they divorced, my sisters even have a great relationship with him. So what does that say? Like, he was present for however he was present, you know, and just try to, you know, be there for me as much as he could. And to this day, like, if I needed something, if he could possibly do it, he would do it, you know?
Yeah. You know, I really would love to go into this deeper, because after your healing, you know, you and I were talking, and it was that moment when you talk about with that little boy, and these dark, you know, things came in, and immediately you were like, we are not doing that. I'm not engaging in that. And then you shut off. And then you carried a lot of shame from that. And then to have this healing, and for Rachel to be like, no, that was your higher self coming in and guiding you, like, we're not doing that. We're not engaging that. But because obviously we're not taught at all about higher self or listening to our souls or anything, the way that you took that on was, well, now I don't trust myself, because how can I trust myself when I have these things that come in that are so dark, that are so evil, that, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I would love for you to go into that, because I think this is something that a lot of people unconsciously have done as well, and they carry.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember it, you know, I could see the picture of myself in that scene, right? Like, the things that have come up, like, pictures are insane, right? Yeah, I just recall, just like, what is this? And, you know, I remember feeling the energy of it, and then it just like shut, like a blinder light, whatever, is shut down completely, because I was like, how can I be trusted to be around anybody if I had these thoughts with these little boys? And I was like, I'm toddler, maybe, you know? And I carried that for so long. Like, I remember, I think, you know, I've never said it to anybody. So speaking it out loud now, that who knows how many people will be hearing it, right? But it may not happen to everybody that's goes through this, but it did happen to me. And I feel like maybe there's somebody else that I can help. Like, you know, we don't know how to discern between like what was happening at that moment and then what was shutting off, because I never was taught to like acknowledge my feelings, talk about my feelings. That's why I didn't say anything what was happening to me either, right? And yeah, I just feel like this on back layer of not trusting myself, even throughout this whole process, like it's been a hard time to like really be in the way of trust for myself, right? Trusting my intuition, my divinity, I didn't trust any of that. Anytime I made a decision, it was like, is that right? Is that wrong? Overthinker, like the whole nine, because I just didn't trust my intuition, even in dating. Like I just never, I would get an inkling, like maybe this is not for you. And then I'd be like, no, you don't know what it is like to be in this X way. You're just overthinking something. Right. And I feel like everything started there, where everything just like the divine self and the shadow self just like both just shut off. And maybe my divinity came online here and there, but again, I just didn't have that full on like, I'm going to feel into this energy that's coming and I can make a decision that is honoring myself. I just didn't have that back then.
Yeah, and I'm sure, given the story you've shared, like you trusted the stepdad. He was your stepdad, and then slowly but surely, now he's making me and kind of conditioning me to do these things, and I'm sure there's a level of mistrust. I don't know if that came up through the healing process, but because I'm sure you trusted him at one point, and then all of a sudden now he's making you do these things, and I can only imagine how confusing that is as a child, to move through that whole experience.
Yeah, and then telling you like, don't tell your mom, this is for adults only. And it's like, I remember I can see that like clearly we were walking across the street and he was just like, don't tell your mom, like this is for adults only. And it's like, okay, like that's interesting. And then again, like I think just the way that I am, I think that I was just, what's inside of me already, right? That responsibility that I took on to save the family and didn't say anything at a cost for myself, right? Because I just didn't know what was going to happen. There was a big fear there. There was a big fear about what would happen.
Yeah.
And legitimate fear because of how uncontrollable and dangerous men are in this world. Like the and that's part of like the trap and the trauma. Like if you did speak out, shit could have got really bad. Like you don't know what this guy is gonna do, so of course that's like, of course you don't want to say anything. Of course you're gonna be afraid. Like it's extremely horrible and scary position.
And there was no safety in my house anyway. Like before they got together, my parents would fight like cat and dog. So like how would I know? Like from very early on, my life was chaotic, right? And all I saw was a lot of chaos and yelling, and like, so there had to be some part of me that was just so scared that didn't know, because I know my mom. It's not like my mom would sit with me and be like having conversations and feeling into how I was feeling on a daily basis. So there was like none of that, right? There was none of that conversation. So of course, at a young age, do you feel comfortable and safe to talk to somebody? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And as you move through it, as you get older, like there were very few people that I would tell, and they were like, "Oh, you're so strong," and I would be like, "Yeah, I overcame it," and I'm like, "Did I really?"
Yeah.
As I'm doing the work with MSU, I realized like, no, I'm not fucking strong because I didn't overcome shit. I just stuffed that in a coffin and dug it 6 feet under and didn't want to deal with it and pretended that I was okay. And doing this work really has uncovered beautifully so many things that I do stuff for a living, right? I do, like, I'm a therapist, I work with trauma clients, and I've done, studied it and like all this, but I never really, and even went to therapy for myself, did hypnosis and all that stuff, right? And nothing worked to really figure like these memories that never came up as intense as they are now. As I've been doing real healing on myself for this, right? And even speaking about it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would say it shows your strength, Alexia, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Now I feel like
Now,
I
yeah.
am. Now, yes.
Yeah.
Now, yes. I feel
Absolutely.
much stronger, divine. Like I feel more powerful now.
Oh, yeah.
Powerful now. Yeah.
Back then, when people would say that, I'd be like, yeah, but I
Yeah.
really didn't deal with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
of
now,
course.
yes, of course. I'm speaking. My voice is clear. I'm speaking. I'm using my voice. But back then, I definitely, like when people would say, like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't want to play a victim. And it was almost like I didn't want to
Wow.
play a victim too,
Yeah.
right? So dishonoring myself in so many
Absolutely.
ways.
Yeah.
And that's probably why that little girl, my 10, 11-year-old self, came to me and like showed me what it felt like to live through that,
Yeah.
right? Because I wasn't in the way of honoring for her.
Yeah.
I didn't acknowledge like that really felt shitty. Like there was a lot of, I couldn't sleep on my back for many years. Like it was just very scary. Like I had to be covered, but you know what I mean? Like, or lights on for a long time too. Like you don't know how much you have to overcome, you know, as an adult. So now for sure, I feel much more powerful. And like, I feel like that's my part of my purpose in doing this work is really being able to speak openly about it and, you know, to give the opportunity for someone else that might be so ashamed of like, I almost did that, or I did do that, or I engaged in some way with my abuser that made, you know, that makes you feel like shit, like you were responsible for it, you know, and there is, you know, that path of healing that lets you know, like, you know, you were groomed, that you were, how would you know at like 7, 8, or even younger if people,
Yeah.
you know, this starts for a lot of people younger. And something else that I had to move through too is not putting my experience like lower compared to other people, right? Because hearing other stories, you know, being a coach in this program and just working with other people that have experienced that trauma, what they've been through and like even younger than I was. And I was like, oh, maybe mine isn't as bad. Remember, Ellie, I told you that one time. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe mine isn't as bad because
Ugh.
it didn't start young and it wasn't like that, you know, that bad. And I was like, whoa, girl, no. Like
Yeah.
that is totally just putting yourself like that you didn't experience that, and how ridiculous is like to not honor, you know, being in the way of honoring, to say like, no, this happened to me and I'm gonna, you know, heal this. It may have not been as I don't even know what the word is, but like as like terrible, like as the other person may have experienced something much younger than I did, but I still experienced that and it did affect me and it still
Yes.
hurt me and it's still painful and it, you know, it shaped some of the way that I was growing up, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly powerful. And, you know, I think what listeners are probably waiting for is like, so how did the healing end? Because when you were telling me this healing, I was like, girl, that's crazy. So I'd love for you to go into that part because wow, the liberation and like what you
Yeah.
shifted into afterwards.
So, you know, Rachel is fucking fantastic, right? She is so powerful. Um, and such a like a beautiful heart. Honestly, it was just so comforting to be able to just open up to her this way. So as she moved me through the healing, she focused on that 10, 11 part of me, right? And I was able to see the whole scenario. But this time, like as she was guiding me through the healing, you know, saying, you know, activating the ways of oneness, and I saw myself get up and punch him, right? And it was like, that was like, punch him, he fell to the floor. And then it was interesting because I was crying, but I was crying like as she was moving me through the healing. Like I don't remember all of it, but like her words I don't remember, but she was saying something about like removing the memory, you know, kind of like healing that memory, so it's not so vivid. And I just remember like crying, but when I was crying I was seeing like these polaroids coming out of my eyes, right? Like those little tiny, like back in the day, the ones that you had to look at the light, right? They weren't done yet. That was happening, and then all of a sudden the room in the house, my room was in like the backyard. I mean, not in the backyard. It was like faced the backyard, and it opened up, and then like this hole came and it swallowed him. Like he went under, and like the house all like got swallowed in, and it rebuilt itself, right? And I was then flying around, so magical, like with my little girl, and who then spun around and was in this really pretty dress, which was very interesting because when I was little, I hated wearing dresses. Like I always wanted to, I consider myself a tomboy, but I'm curious if I did that because I was being protective of like not wanting to
Wow.
be a girl, right?
Yeah.
I hated wearing dresses. But when I tell you I hated wearing dresses, I hate it.
Wow.
Like my mom forced me to wear them and I hated it. But anyway, so I saw myself in a really pretty dress, like flying around with my adult self and her. And then she continued, the same, the healing there. And then I went to the other house where I was younger. And we got that little girl out of her bathroom that she always stuck in.
Yeah.
And same thing, the house like was swallowed by the earth, rebuilt, and then we were just all like flying around. And all of a sudden, like out of the two houses, these rocket ships came out, right? And it was like as she was moving through it, become elevating me or whatever during the healing. And then they turned into dragons. I was like, what? I'm flying with my two younger parts of me. And then they turn into dragons and then we ride, like I got on top of them and then the healing was over then. And it was just like, what?
Beautiful.
It was really fascinating to see like just how, to go through that process of like gaining your power back, right?
Yes.
Like you are now in like creating the narrative that you want to see in that part and like taking your power back, gaining your voice back, and all the things that I thought were lost. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, when you shared this with me, I know like you ran a quick mental program of like, am I making this up?
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. It's all real. Don't do that. And I think the most magical part was when you were telling me about the dragons, because dragons are the divine feminine. Like that's what dragons are. And that's been taken away from all of us, like especially in women, especially what you've gone through and the fact that at the end you were flying on top of it. Like that to me is like, there it is. Like you cannot make that up. Like incredibly powerful. And I remember you texting me and being like, I feel like I'm high. Like I feel like
yeah, I felt like I was literally high.
Yeah. But I also could feel like, wow, like you look at how much work you just did in that last hour. So much work.
And and I also shared with you that I went in there with a lot of expectation. I literally like, right? When I had scheduled the healing, I was like, oh, are only available is in October, and this is
It's like the countdown to your favorite concert. You're like every day, you're like, I'm a little bit closer.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then obviously, as you and I talk every day, so we were like, you're like opportunity for you to do some healing before, and it was true. Like the healings that I engaged in and things that were just coming up for me, so divinely placed. Like so many things came up for me before then. Powerlessness and not using my voice and all that came up, right? And when it came and I was like, I did feel high and it felt great. But the next day I was like feeling like I was still going to be floating. And I felt like fucking shit the next day. Yeah. Like I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to hear anybody. Like I was cranky. Yeah. So cranky. And then I told you and you were like, can't have expectations.
Yeah. Because now that you went high, everything that is there, that all that shittiness, now it has to be felt and alchemized because you're not at that frequency anymore.
Yeah.
So when you said that to me, I was like, yeah, of course. And also never have expectations of what you think this is going to be.
But it's been slow, subtle shifts that I've been feeling. Yeah. So it's amazing, right? Because I'm very aware of what's happening. Even with my clients now, like I've always felt like this work has helped me become a better therapist. And I'm so grateful for that. But the 2 days later, I had a session with somebody and like, I was like, oh, okay, I can see I'm more open and I can feel like because I'm so open, their energy is like, okay, I can trust, right? And just those little subtle shifts that have been happening since that time, I can definitely feel it within me.
And if you're willing to share, did you work with any particular ways of oneness while you were with Rachel?
She activated the way of wisdom and harmlessness and gentleness. I don't know why I always have a hard time saying that. Those two, so I've been activating them daily. That's something that we talked about afterwards. So so every morning and every evening or in between, whenever I like feel called to, I'll activate both. So I've just been feeling it, it's been a week and a day that I had the healing. So still really activating. And then I want to go back and listen to the healing part. I told her, I was like, I don't know if I want to listen to the beginning, but the healing part, I haven't felt called to yet, but I feel like I want to listen to it just to integrate it even more. But I'm letting, some time pass so that I can listen to it and with, a different energy, right?
Yeah, and there's huge benefit, even if you feel, "Oh, I don't want to listen to this part. I don't want to listen to me talking about my own shit."
Yeah.
But just allowing ourselves to listen to that back and then bring love to it. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience to allow what's there to really, oh, I did show up that way, that is in me. And it helps with the integration for sure. It's awesome that you have it on record so you can do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I asked her, and this time she had me record it on my computer, because last time I had a session with her, she sent me the recording and I forgot to download it, and it like got deleted after a while. And I was like, so this time
Zoom deletes it after 30 days.
Yeah. So this time I downloaded it to my computer. So I recorded on my computer, so it's there. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. I need to listen to all of it. And I've gotten really, really good at listening to my own voice when, even on like the reels on Instagram. Before I would cringe. I'm like, oh, I don't want to listen to myself. I've gotten so much better. But yeah, listening to the whole thing would probably put in more perspective too, and just integrate even more and anchor in that healing that she gave me, because it's still there and I'm still vibrating from it. And again, the subtle shifts are just amazing that I've noticed and witnessed. And obviously that those shadow parts want to integrate and attach themselves to you, but it's like, no, we move through it and activate the ways of wisdom and harmlessness and gentleness.
Yeah. And you say it's been a week and a day, and you say you feel the little shifts, but like when you really look at from a bird's eye view, how do you feel different from even an hour before that healing and right now? Like, what do you actually feel when you say these little shifts?
I feel like I have allowed myself to be me.
Yeah.
And when I look at myself in the mirror, it's not like a critical eye.
Yeah.
Right? I'm so critical of myself, or have been, and nitpick so much, right? And I've noticed that has decreased tremendously. And I just feel more open. Like I feel more energy around me. And I'm willing to feel. Like I think that part of me that closed off a lot. And I as an adult, I had met one of my friends who's very gifted as well. She kind of introduced me more to that realm of like, the metaphysical world and what gifts I had, but I never again was in the way of trusting that, right?
She's so gifted, everybody, by the way. Every time one of your gifts come online, I'm like, yeah, freaking out.
And I just feel like I can feel more, and I'm allowing that to be present, like, and like not doubting it, because I, really doubt myself when I have an intuitive hit, or I think something's gonna happen. Like for me, it's a lot of pictures to come up for me when I'm feeling into something, and I always was like, no, I'm crazy, I don't even like. But now I don't dismiss it. I'm like, okay, that could possibly be, and let's see, and then if it does happen, I'm like, oh, okay, you were right on the money, girl. So I feel like I feel much lighter too. Like I don't feel like the weight of the world on my shoulders. Obviously, my situation, I live with my family, so it's very, interesting. But I had and I told you this, I had a conversation the other day with my niece, and I think because I was so open, she was able to then be open with me, and it was very interesting. Instead of like being so wrapped up in the emotion of how my sister's treating her, I was able to listen, be in presence with her, and then guide her back to herself, so it was just very interesting how I even moved through that part of it with her.
Yeah. I think that your dog's agreeing. He's like, yes.
I'm like, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Larry.
Larry is allowed on this podcast episode. Yeah, and I think, as someone that's your friend, but also that's, I get to be a witness to your journey. Like every time you move through any kind of healing, I feel you so much more online, like every single time. And I say this to you, I've said this to you many times, but like, who you're becoming, you're like going to be unfuckable with. And like every time you go through something like this and I see, oh, there's Alexia Moore. Like sometimes even when we're in class and stuff and you speak, I'm like, damn girl, like this is you coming home. And I know Danny and I have spoken about this too. Like Danny always describes you as like, you don't see her coming and then she comes and it's like, oh, she's here. And so it's just such a gift for me as your friend to be able to witness you and like just you more and more just being here as you heal all these aspects that have obviously blocked, your gifts, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was the last like corporate meeting or something we had. It was a palpable feeling like, oh,
Yeah.
Alexia's leveled up again. You can feel it.
It was her voice. It was the way that
Yeah.
she would say things. I was just like, there she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is, yep.
Yeah, and it's a real true testament to the work here. I can't say it enough, and I've done a lot of things, to try to heal, and nothing compares to this, right? Yeah. And
Yeah,
because it was with the root.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to know, I mean, how in the past maybe a year or so, how many sessions have you done with Rachel? Like just a couple, right?
With her one-on-one, 2.
Yeah, two,
2.
right. Just want to drive this home. Like it's not just about doing these sessions, right? Every time you go in and you have a session with Rachel, I mean, you end up on this podcast and get to share literally the magic, right? But it's all the moments in between, right? It isn't just you showing up twice a year to have a healing with her and just expecting her to wave a magic wand and puff, you get to ride on the dragon. It's you doing the work on a daily basis, showing up for yourself, and then allowing that to bring that, like all of that work into those sessions and having somebody so mastered in this work like Rachel to guide you on your own then like personal healing and transformation. Like that's what makes it potent. It's all the incremental work you're doing, and then you get to bring it into this these incredible sessions with her, and she can just take you a million times higher.
Yeah, Danny, good point. And also like when I've had my sessions, I've been to the point where like, okay, I'm ready, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't jump to have a session with her. I always really like take a moment, pause, talk to Ellie. Like, do I need, jump on wherever like coaching forums or the coaching certification program. And through those, like, I think has opened up many portals where I was like, okay, there's something else here that I'm not seeing and I'm not feeling, but I still pause. Like I knew I needed her, but I was like, let me pause and wait and see what else comes then. And then when I finally was like, okay, I can see what's coming up, and it's too painful for me to really dive into it because there's so much shame and embarrassment there that even if I alchemize it a little bit, it's still going to be swirling around. And that's when I, scheduled, and it was like, oh my God, it's October. It's like, ah.
And this is the real like journey of actual healing is we do it ourselves. We reach out to coaches, and then when we know, not because we need from a place of, oh well, I can never do this on my own. It's like, oh no, I actually know I've hit my limit of where I can take me, or where this coach that I'm working with can take me. I actually need somebody higher, and that's obviously why we have Rachel leading the way to be able to take us there. So I just want to commend you, Alexia, for one, even if you didn't feel like it, as you mentioned earlier, for your strength to endure this throughout your life. And then to, most importantly, to find your power to one, heal from it, and be able to come on a podcast and talk about this in such a powerful and vulnerable way, because this is not an easy topic to talk about. I'm sure there are many listeners, and if you've made it this far in the podcast, again, good job, because it's uncomfortable. I could feel a bunch of shit coming up for me right as we started recording. Like, this is not easy, you know, light-hearted stuff to talk about. And so just thank you for coming on and, you know, just sharing your experience and the work you've done and what you've been able to transform into. So I mean, it's just awesome.
Thank you. I felt like, you know, I knew when I had this healing with Rachel, I said, I know I have to go back on and do the part 2. Like when we ended the first one, you were like, I'm sure there'll be a part 2. Here it is. But yeah, I already knew, and I felt into that energy, and I saw ourselves talking about it like even before I had my healing with Rachel. So I knew it was important for me to use my voice in this platform, and, you know, the support from everyone, right? All of you, you've been an integral part in my journey of healing, and I couldn't have done it without any of you guys, because the love and the support and the non-judgmental support is like amazing, right? And it makes you feel like, okay, I can. And on the days that you don't want to do the work, it's like the days that Ellie's like, I'm gonna kick you in the butt energetically, and you need to do it. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, thank you. I really feel a shift from when I started MSU to now. I can see myself, like, I've grown tremendously, feel more powerful, more divine, and really settling into who I really am. Like at the core, right, of like what I'm supposed to bring to this world, where before I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. You know, am I doing something?
Yeah. And how many people you're going to help, you know?
Yeah.
How many people you're going to help through this. I always say that to you. Like, you are going to guide so many people back home to themselves, and you have to go through it first, and you're doing it, and you're using your voice and your share. I love that this podcast documents your entire healing journey with this one. Because I mean, it's, you know, it's in the physical reality, like your journey of coming back to your dragon within is just chef's kiss. So I love you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And to anybody at home, if you really feel like this is an episode that could help somebody that's been through the same thing, I would highly recommend that you share it with them. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.